Karen's voice cracked through the air as I stepped outside, but it wasn't the shouting that froze me. It was the gun. She was standing there, arm extended, pointing it straight at my grandmother, sitting helplessly in her wheelchair. For a second, nothing made sense. How does a neighborhood morning turn into this? My heart started pounding so hard it drowned everything else out. My grandmother looked confused, not even scared yet, like her mind hadn't caught up to the danger. And neither had mine. This wasn't supposed to happen here. Not over some ridiculous rule. Not over something as stupid as wheels. But there it was, right in front of me, and I knew everything was about to change. Karen hadn't always been this extreme. Or maybe we just didn't notice at first. When she became HOA president, people thought she was just strict. The kind of person who liked rules a little too much. But it didn't take long for that strict to turn into something else entirely. She started handing out fines like they were parking tickets in a crowded city. Grass a little too long? Fine. Trash bin visible for more than 10 minutes? Fine. Someone laughed too loudly after sunset? Somehow also a fine. It became a pattern, something we all joked about at first, until the joke stopped being funny. The more control she got, the more she pushed. It wasn't about order anymore. It was about power. And the worst part was, deep down, we all knew she wasn't going to stop ever. Then came the rule that shifted everything from annoying to unbelievable. Karen called it the no-wheel zone, like she was unveiling some revolutionary idea instead of something completely unhinged. At first, people assumed it was aimed at kids leaving bikes around, or delivery carts blocking driveways. That would have made sense. But Karen didn't explain it that way. She walked the streets with that same cold certainty, writing warnings, watching everyone like she was waiting for someone to slip. Slowly, confusion turned into quiet fear. People stopped using strollers. Bikes disappeared overnight. Even something as small as rolling a trash bin started to feel risky. And beneath all that silence was one question nobody wanted to ask out loud, because saying it would make it real. Surely she doesn't mean everything with wheels, right? My grandmother arrived a few days later, completely unaware of the strange tension hanging over the neighborhood. She had always carried herself with a quiet strength, the kind that comes from surviving more in life than most people ever will. Even in her wheelchair, there was nothing fragile about her presence. When I explained what had been going on, she listened carefully, her eyes narrowing slightly, then let out a soft laugh like she thought I was exaggerating. To her, rules like that didn't sound threatening, just ridiculous. She made a small joke about people losing their minds over nothing. And for a moment, I almost believed it too, that maybe this was all just temporary, something that would pass. But as she looked around and noticed how tense everyone seemed, even she began to realize something here wasn't right. The next morning felt almost too quiet, like the neighborhood was holding its breath without realizing it. Sunlight settled gently across the street, and for a brief moment, everything looked normal again. My grandmother asked to go outside, just to enjoy the air, and I helped her onto the porch without thinking twice. She sat there comfortably in her wheelchair, watching the stillness with a calm that made everything seem harmless. Birds moved along the fences, a soft breeze carried through the trees, and nothing about the scene hinted at what was coming. But there was something beneath it all, something subtle you could feel if you paid attention. Doors stayed closed a little longer than usual. No one walked past. Even the silence felt deliberate, like the kind that comes right before something breaks. The shift happened so fast that it barely gave my mind time to process it. 1 second. Everything was still, and the next, Karen's voice cut through the air, sharp and accusing. She stormed toward the porch, her steps quick, almost frantic, eyes locked on my grandmother like she had been waiting for this exact moment. She started shouting about violations, about rules, about wheels, her words tumbling over each other with a kind of urgency that didn't feel rational anymore. My grandmother tried to respond, calm and confused, asking what she had done wrong. But Karen wasn't listening. She stepped closer, invading that small space, her voice rising, her hands shaking. Then something shifted again, something darker. Karen reached toward her side, and before it even registered, she pulled out a gun. For a split second, the world seemed to stall. The air felt heavier, like everything had been pulled tight. She pointed it straight at my grandmother, her arm trembling but unwavering enough to make it real. My grandmother froze, her hands gripping the armrests, her face caught between disbelief and fear. I rushed forward without thinking, my heart pounding so loud it drowned everything else, shouting for her to stop. But it only seemed to fuel Karen more. She kept yelling, insisting she was enforcing the rules, like that somehow justified what she was doing. Neighbors began to appear at their doors, some stepping closer, others staying back, all of them frozen in shock. No one expected this to go this far, and now that it had, nobody seemed to know how to stop it. The sound of sirens broke through the tension like something finally cutting a wire that had been pulled too tight. Within minutes, police cars lined the street, their presence shifting the entire scene from chaos to control. Officers moved in carefully, voices steady, instructing Karen to lower the weapon. For a moment she hesitated, still clinging to whatever belief had driven her this far, but reality was closing in. Slowly, her arm dropped and the gun slipped from her hand. That was the moment everything changed. They placed her in handcuffs right there in front of everyone. The same woman who had controlled every detail of the neighborhood now stood silent, her authority gone in an instant. As officers spoke, the charges became clear, not just violations or fines, but serious crimes that carried real consequences. Assault, reckless endangerment, actions that couldn't be explained away by rules or authority. In the days that followed, the courtroom told the rest of the story. There were no arguments, no dramatic defense, just a quiet admission of guilt. And when the sentence was finally read, it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like balance being restored, like something that had been off for too long was finally set right. My grandmother healed slowly, but her spirit never wavered, and that mattered more than anything. The neighborhood felt different after that, quieter, almost thoughtful. Some lines, once crossed, change everything. What do you think? Was justice truly served? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.